now time for question period. I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Thank you. Well, good morning, Speaker. Good morning. Every day for 7 weeks, I've asked the Premier to answer questions about yet another scandal, yet another police investigation involving his government. All year, we watched the Premier go from scandal to scandal, defending ministers' use of taxpayer funds for their personal piggy bank. Folks are making New Year's resolutions at this time of year, so I'm wondering if the Premier will make a New Year's resolution to finally hold his ministers accountable for decisions that lead to police investigations.
I'm tired.
I recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you know, of course, the government is always working with our officials to ensure that we get to the bottom of any challenge that we face. But at the same time, Madam Speaker, as we draw to a close this current session of Parliament, it's also a good time to reflect on all of the amazing things that have happened across the province of Ontario. A lot of the ministers and members opposite, I will include them. There have been new long-term care homes open, amazing investments in hospitals across the province of Ontario. Of course, new transit and transportation that is being built all across the province of Ontario. We've seen some promising, encouraging numbers in our jobs, Madam Speaker. So while we face a lot of challenges in the province of Ontario, given the fact that there is a very damaging trade war being waged against us south of the border, there is a lot to be thankful in the province of Ontario. And by working together, we'll build an even bigger, better, stronger province.
Back to the Leader of the Opposition.
I think that was really an answer to the question, but we've seen the Greenbelt grab, the Science Centre mess, the secretive and costly Ontario Place deal, the infamous Skills Development Fund scandal. For Conservative insiders, this is just the grift that keeps on giving. So how many more scandals and backroom deals are we going to see next year?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, we look forward to the year ahead. I want to wish everybody in this place a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope they get to spend time with their family and friends. Speaker, we look forward to a strong 2026 where we unlock the potential of the Ring of Fire and continue to make progress, where we make progress on new energy infrastructure that will power an Ontario that's able to continue to attract foreign direct investment. Of course, that's grown under the leadership of this Premier, that's helping to create good-paying jobs for Ontarians in every corner of this province. We'll continue to take measures to put more money back in Ontarians' pockets. We'll continue to take measures to reduce red tape, Speaker, and to provide meaningful opportunities for a next generation to find meaningful employment in an Ontario that stands strong on the national stage, an Ontario that is self-reliant, self-sufficient, and a Canadian workforce that nation builds to ensure Canada is the best place to live, work, and raise a family.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I think the minister should, over the holidays, go visit a soup kitchen or a food bank and see all of the people who are actually juggling multiple jobs and still end up there, or the 700,000+ people in Ontario who cannot find a job. Families are the ones who are paying the price for this government's failures over and over again, and that is what this is really about, Speaker. That's what this is about. Every dollar that's going to Conservative insiders is taken away from workers, from public services. And the Premier may not be familiar with the stress and the anxiety that people out there are feeling right now, especially around the holidays. I know that he had a different experience. Everything was handed to him. He grew up with a silver spoon. But things are really, really tough out there. They are tough out there. When is the Premier going to stop putting his friends and insiders ahead of hardworking Ontarians?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, I think it would be a good New Year's resolution for the Leader of the Opposition to get out and to see some of the incredible training taking place in some of the training centres around Ontario. Not just show up at their Christmas party, Speaker, but actually go and visit the training that's empowering a next generation to get the skill sets to land jobs. Jobs in an Ontario that is actually building public transit, an Ontario that's building a new Ontario Science Centre, an Ontario that's building highways, hospitals, roads, bridges, Speaker. That's what we're doing, empowering a next generation with the skills that they need. You know, we've heard stories in this place, but I met the folks at Oaks last night, and I reflect on Lewis's story, and so many who've been given a second chance, who've turned obstacles into opportunity. That's what we're doing with supporting training in this province, and we're very proud of it and look forward to 2026.
Question, the Leader of the Opposition.
I've also been meeting with skilled trade workers and PSWs and lots of workers across the province, even just last night. And let me tell you what they told me. They said, don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. This is the last day for the Premier to come clean with Ontarians before he jets off on some holiday break. More than half of the recipients of Skills Development Fund money scored poorly, and the lowest scoring applicants raked in more funding than the highest scoring ones. Ministry staff raised really serious flags about some of those folks, but the minister ignored their advice. He seemed absolutely dead set on giving funds to companies like Keel Digital Solutions, a company where he has close personal ties.
Question.
So will the Premier admit that his minister interfered in the Skills Development Fund to make sure that his friends and his donors got a piece of the pie?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, I'll tell you some of the stories I've heard, and I actually reference the real people. I don't just nebulously say I've heard stories. I reference the real people whose stories that we've heard. I think the Ty Downey and SEIU, Speaker, and the important Skills Development Fund investments that have helped reduce dependency on agency staff in our long-term care homes. I visited those long-term care homes, and it's not without challenges. They point to public policy things, they point to things they want our government to do, but they know they've got a government who will show up, who will listen, and who will take strides each and every day to make life better for the people of Ontario. That's what we're doing. Or the training hall, Speaker. I mentioned Oaks. Again, Mark Tenalia, Joe Williams do an incredible job. Lewis, who I met on a BridgeCon site, has turned obstacles into opportunity.
Response.
These are the real people we're meeting, the real lives we're changing, and we're proud of it.
Back to the Leader of the Opposition.
You know, families out there are struggling to afford rent, to afford groceries, just on any day, let alone in the holidays. The very basics, right? I listen every day to families who are looking for childcare for their kids so they can go back to work, or affordable homes, anywhere affordable to live. But with this government, there's always tens of millions of dollars to spare for the Premier's dentist, or his campaign manager, or his favorite nightclub owner, or his donors. For insiders in the Conservative Party, every day with this government feels like Christmas morning, right? Does the Premier expect us to ignore that the minister hand-picked Conservative insiders to receive government funds?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, that's simply incorrect, Speaker. Every dollar goes to training. It's in the guidelines of the publicly accessible fund, Speaker, and it's changing lives. It's helping people train. We've made steps over each round, as I've said, to improve the program, and it's supporting people in training in the hospitality sector, Speaker, that was ravaged during the pandemic, Speaker, or supporting in the skilled trades. You know, we've seen an increase in youth registering in apprenticeships, factually an increase. We've seen an increase in the number of women registering in apprenticeships, because you can't build a stronger Ontario leaving 50% of the workforce behind. But you actually have to have a plan to build, Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition doesn't have that plan. She opposes each and every measure to build a stronger Ontario, and that's why unions and that's why working-class people of Ontario have abandoned her and abandoned her party.
Leader of the Opposition.
A plan? A jobs plan? All across this province, workers are being laid off, struggling to find opportunities, and this government hasn't offered up anything. We have been waiting for 7 weeks asking for a jobs plan. Thousands of workers have been laid off in Brampton, in Ear Falls, in Ingersoll, in Sault Ste. Marie, in Oshawa, in Terrace Bay. The Premier has created a jobs disaster in this province. And instead of connecting people to a good job with a decent salary, the Minister of Labour is too busy handing out trading funds to his friends and his donors. And that's a fact. Speaker, the people of Ontario could really use a Christmas miracle. So will this Premier put an end to the grift and fire that minister?
Minister of Labour.
Let's talk about a plan, Speaker. A plan to unlock the critical minerals in the Ring of Fire, Speaker. A plan to mine. Mining they oppose. A plan to build new energy infrastructure in every corner of this province, Speaker, that's refurbishing nuclear plant, that's building small modular reactors, that's building new nuclear, Speaker. A plan to build public transit in this province, and we've seen record investments in every corner of Ontario. A plan to build new hospitals, Speaker. They couldn't get the job done in communities like mine when they had the balance of power for years. We did, Speaker. Or how about the 600 schools closed by members opposite that we're now building? That's a plan, Speaker. That's a plan that's empowering a record number of youth in the skilled trades. It's a plan that's bringing more teachers into the sector. It's a plan that's bringing more healthcare professionals into Ontario's health sector. That's a plan for a stronger Ontario that we fight for each and every day.
Question, I recognize the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Premier. And yesterday I asked the Premier if we could take all that surplus American booze and sell it off and give it to our food banks. You know, all that booze that's bought and paid for, that's collecting dust, we ain't getting a refund for it. It's not happening. So we can sell it off and do good like Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and PEI. So it's Christmas. It's Christmas, folks. And we don't always agree, as we can see in here. But there's a chance for us to do something good right now, for all of us to agree. All of us. But the irony of it is, it's not all of us that can make it happen. It's one of us. And that one of us is the Premier. He can make it happen. So I'm going to ask the Premier again this morning, will you sell off that surplus American alcohol that's collecting dust and use it to make sure that children and their families won't go hungry this Christmas?
I recognize the member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Donald Trump took aim at Ontario's economy with those unjustified tariffs, and our government has removed U.S.-made alcohol as a response to that. It's because we stand with the workers in Colborne, in Carlisle, and Carrying Place, who make Ontario cider. We don't stand with those workers in Catskill, New York. We stand with the people who work in craft breweries in Bowmanville, Brockville. But we do not stand with the craft brewers in Boston, Massachusetts. We stand with the workers for the grape growers, the wine producers in Niagara. We do not stand for the people in Napa Valley, California. This government will stand and protect the workers of Ontario. Thank you, ma'am.
I recognize the member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Madam Speaker, in Ottawa, food banks have a very difficult situation, and they have 100% raise of users, and a large percentage are kids. Food banks are fundamental. They're crucial in order to help the population, and they have been used for a long time. And during this time, the Ontario government leaves $90 million of dollars just sleep and not being used. So food banks are crucial for our communities. They are the tool that many families use, and they need this help today more than ever. Ontario and people in Ontario need this help now. Is the government going to give this help, and is it going to use these products in order to help food banks in Ontario?
Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I understand that sometimes the opposition comes up with ideas that they think are going to help people in Ontario, when actually what they're talking about is something that's going to cause more problems for the people of Ontario. We know that the Trump tariffs have taken direct aim at the economy in Ontario, and this government, this Premier, will stand with the workers of Ontario. We're not going to abandon those, because we know that we've seen an increase in VQA sales of 79%. That is workers in Niagara Falls, in Prince Edward County, who have jobs today, who have the ability to buy the things that they need to buy for their families, because we are standing behind and supporting the workers of Ontario, and will continue to stand behind all of those people in Ontario who deserve that support from us. Speaker.
I recognize the member for Canada Carleton.
Thank you, Speaker. I have two food banks in my riding, the Canada Food Cupboard and the West Carleton Food Access Centre. Amazing people doing amazing things for their neighbours. They're supported by volunteers in the broader community. But this year, Speaker, food bank usage is up 25% in my riding. So my question to the Premier, if Manitoba, Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland and Labrador can do it, why cannot we sell our surplus American liquor that we've already paid for and put that money to good use to help people this holiday season?
Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The reality is there are more wineries in Niagara Falls than Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and PEI combined. And those are Ontario workers. And what the Liberals are suggesting is that our government turn their back on the hard-working people in this province and say to them, I'm sorry, at the time of year when there is more alcohol, more of your product being sold, we think it should be taken off the shelf. We think that the American product should be put instead. And what they're saying, Madam Speaker, and what they don't understand, is that every bottle of Julio Gallo sold at Christmas means a bottle of VQA Ontario is not. Every bottle of Samuel Adams sold means a bottle of Canadian Ontario craft beer remains on the shelf. And every single one of those workers in that industry in Ontario would be harmed because of it. We will stand with the workers.
I recognize the member for Don Valley East.
Madam Speaker, in and around Don Valley East, there are 25 food banks. 25! And each week, the lines at these food banks grow longer, breaking records that were really only set the week before. 25 food banks, amongst hundreds across our province, where 1 in 3 visitors are going for the first time. 1 in 3 are children, and 1 in 4 could not earn enough to make ends meet, even if they already had a job. There were 8.7 million food bank visits last year, of which 30% were from children. The Premier says he wants to stand up for workers. Stand up for these people. Our province sits on $80 million of liquor, some of which is set to expire. It's already bought and paid for. So will the Premier sell this unused inventory so that we can take all that revenue and use it to support food banks so families in my riding don't go hungry this Christmas?
Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What we're doing is we're supporting the people of Ontario, those hard-working individuals who are trying to make sure that they can make ends meet. And what the Liberals are suggesting is that we tell them that we're going to turn our backs on all of those individuals who work in that industry. We're going to tell them that we don't want to sell their product because we know that for every bottle of California wine sold, a bottle of Ontario wine is not. We know that for every New York State cider sold, an Ontario cider is not, and it remains on the shelf. And we want to make sure that the people who are working in Ontario continue to work in Ontario. We will continue to support all of those jobs because it's the right thing to do, Madam Speaker. We will stand with the workers in Ontario.
Recognize the member for Orleans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we approach Christmas, food insecurity in Ottawa is reaching levels we've never seen. The Ottawa Hunger Report shows nearly 600,000 food bank visits last year, an all-time high. And in Orleans, one of the most affluent parts of the province, the situation is just as alarming. The Orleans Cumberland Community Resource Centre Food Bank now serves more than 1,200 people every month, half of which are children. That is a 34% increase in the last 2 years. While families and children are relying on food banks at record levels, this government is sitting on tens of millions of dollars in U.S. liquor, $2 million of which is about to be poured down the drain. Madam Speaker, families are going hungry. This government is letting liquor go bad. So will the government sell that U.S. alcohol that is surplus, that has already been paid for, and use the proceeds to help food banks, help families this Christmas?
Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the question. I'll keep coming back to this. Our government is exploring every opportunity that we have to support the workers of Ontario. We want to make sure that what we do lifts those people up. And we know that if you take an American product and support American industry, even if it is good-hearted on their part, what you're doing is you're harming Ontario workers, and we're not going to turn our back on the people of this province who are working hard to pay their bills. We're not going to turn our back and take away their opportunities. We're not going to say that Americans deserve more than Ontarians do. That is not the approach that we're going to take. We will explore whatever opportunity we have to make sure that the people of this province get what they need and our workers are supported.
Right on.
Recognize the member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Madam Speaker, I'm overwhelmed by the poppycock I'm hearing over there. We are trying to help families going hungry in this province. You know what? 3 food banks in Toronto St. Paul's, Churches on the Hill, Hillcrest Community Food Bank, Avenue Road Food Bank, 20% increase in demand. These are people who are bringing their families, people who are working. These are people who are lining up every day for help. Am I hearing, and this is to the Premier properly, that this government would rather pour $80 million down the drain than give that to food banks and people going hungry in this province?
The member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's talk about reality here. Spirits do not go bad.
Yeah.
So the numbers that they're giving, if the member opposite wants to talk poppycock, she should stop talking about the numbers that she's giving. What we are doing as a government is we're standing behind the hardworking people in Niagara Falls, the hardworking people in Prince Edward County, the hardworking people in Bruce County, and in every district across this province, to make sure that those individuals who are seeing a benefit because we've taken U.S. alcohol off the shelves continue to have that benefit, because there is nothing better for them than knowing that they have security of their job. Madam Speaker, we will continue to support the workers in Ontario. We'll continue to make sure that we're doing things to lift people up in this province, and we will make no apologies for saying that American-produced product is not something that we're going to put on the shelf.
That's right.
Question. I recognize the member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you very much, Speaker. My question is to Premier. After months of waiting, the government's controversial Intimate Partner Violence Report was released this week. I didn't want to say what I'm now forced to say, Speaker, but if committee members and the staff were allowed to speak, they would confirm that I did everything in my power to prevent this outcome, because survivors deserve better. But the government's IPV report is riddled with citations that do not exist. If this was a university assignment, the government would face academic discipline based on how high their report scores with AI detection models. This government can bully and say otherwise, but survivors know what it feels like to be gaslit. So will the Premier come clean and admit to AI's role in writing this report, or will he continue to gaslight survivors?
I recognize the Associate Minister of Women's Economic and Social Opportunities.
Madam Speaker, it is completely disgraceful that the members opposite would resort to such ridiculous and factless, baseless accusations during the 16 days of activism. Activism against gender-based violence is a time that demands seriousness, integrity, and a renewed commitment by all of us to end violence against women. We take violence against women very seriously, and the incredible work done by the member from Kitchener-Hespeler, South Hespeler, is a testament to that. The NDP put out a press release claiming that our report was written by AI. Well, guess what, Speaker? The same tool that they use says that their press releases were written by AI. This entire charade by the NDP is a disgrace, and it shows everyone in the province their true colors. While every other party in the House has been working together to publish this report, the NDP chose to walk away.
Order. 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 The member for King Vaughan will come to order. I recognize the member for Windsor West.
This Conservative government has something in common with AI large language models. It can't tell fact from fiction. Their own IPV proves it. IPV report proves it. It claims that the coroner's inquest into the death of Windsor nurse Laurie DuPont was completed in 2002, yet Laurie was tragically murdered in 2005. And the inquest finished in 2007. It says a Globe and Mail editorial on the cell phone ban was published 6 months before the ban even existed. Whoa. And it even cites the Child Development Institute, but links to the website example.org. These aren't simple human errors. They are AI hallucinations signed off by a government selling off the stories of victims without their consent. And the report's next step is to figure out what the next step is. Why does this government keep disrespecting women and girls by failing to take IPV and GBV seriously and refusing to implement any of the years-long recommendations right now to save lives?
I recognize the Associate Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, the member from Niagara West did not show up to committee once, did not participate, Windsor West, sorry, did not participate once, walked out of the committee when they had the opportunity to review the report. They walked out. You know, women and people who are victims put their stories out for everybody in this House to hear. And those stories are reflected, Madam Speaker, in the report. And while everyone in this House had the opportunity to edit and participate, they walked out on those women for Ontario. Our government will never do that. We will work to make sure that we have the resources in place and the supports in place to help women. And you can see that through Ontario Stands and the $1.4 billion investment we've made. You can see that in the organizations that we are investing in to help women rebuild their lives. These are real people, Madam Speaker, and they are reflected in the real.
Question. I recognize the member for Beaches East York.
Thank you very much, Speaker. This government is infamous for delays. The Eglinton LRT, the extended producer responsibility requirement, this House's excessive summer break, and currently their proposed endless winter break, and now the overdue Greenbelt review. My question, Speaker, to the Premier, can he please provide Ontarians with a timeline as to when he will start and when he will complete the mandatory 10-year Greenbelt review, which is due in 2025.
I recognize the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Well, thank you, Speaker. A couple of things. First of all, I think everyone knows we had a winter election. As of that, we are taking time to get the framework put in place so we can do a proper review. But again, that being said, Speaker, the Greenbelt is enshrined in legislation for generations to come. I repeat, the Greenbelt is enshrined in legislation for generations to come. The decision was made. The decision is final.
Member for Beaches East York.
None of us wanted that ridiculous SNAP
winter election, but here we are. Speaker, my question to the Premier, can he tell the good people of Ontario when he will reinstate the Greenbelt Council, how the appointment process will evolve, and what their mandate will be?
Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Well, Madam Speaker, I would say that the February election worked out pretty well for this side of the House, don't you think? I will say the framework is in place. We're putting it in place. Again, the Green Belt is enshrined in legislation for generations to come. The decision was made. The decision is final. Thank you, Speaker.
Recognize the member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Energy and Mines. Ontario is experiencing historic growth. More businesses are choosing our province, and we continue to lead North America in attracting major job-creating investments in advanced manufacturing. But with a new opportunity come increased demand for energy. Speaker, families and workers want to know that Ontario will have the power needed to support this prosperity. They want confidence that small businesses and growing industries can rely on clean, affordable, and dependable electricity every single day. Speaker, can the minister please explain how our government is ensuring that Ontario's energy system continues to meet the needs of a growing province for decades to come?
I recognize the member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the member from Richmond Hill for that question. Earlier this week, we passed Bill 40, an important piece of legislation to ensure reliable energy growth in this province. Ontario is growing at a pace that we have not seen in generations. More families are calling this province home, and more businesses, and picking Ontario over any other jurisdiction in North America. Speaker, this kind of growth requires power, not just any power, but clean, reliable, and affordable power. And this is exactly what Bill 40 delivers. This legislation provides a clear mandate to our independent energy planners, keeping our system reliable as demand surges, protect affordable and for households and small business, maintaining our position as a clean energy leader, and for the first time ensuring the system actively supports economic growth when planning for energy. Speaker, while the opposition talks down Ontario's economy, we are building it, and we won't stop doing that.
Back to the member for Richmond Hill.
Speaker, I want to thank the parliamentary assistant for that answer. Ontario is leading the continent in clean energy expansion from new nuclear generation and refurbished facilities to groundbreaking investments in energy storage and grid modernization. These initiatives not only secure the reliable power that families depend on, but they also help ensure that major employers continue choosing Ontario as the best place to grow and innovate. Speaker, I've heard my constituents in Richmond Hill are proud to see the work our government is doing, but they also want confidence that our government is keeping affordability front and centre.
Question.
Speaker, can the parliamentary assistant elaborate on how Bill 40 will protect affordability for families and small businesses?
Back to the member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You see, for years, Ontario paid the price for Liberal decisions that plunged our economy system into chaos. Contracts that were too expensive, generation that we did not need, and soaring hydro bills that hurt families and drove jobs out of this province. We will never go back to that. Bill 40 ensures that every major planning decision are grounded in what matters most for the people of this province. Speaker, Ontario already benefits from one of the cleanest and most affordable electricity system in Canada, and Bill 40 protects this advantage. When we attract new business, invest in job creation, projects and open new mines, we are reducing pressure on household bills. We're bringing more investment into the system, more jobs, more customers, and lower costs for families. Speaker, our government is delivering on a system that is clean, reliable, and affordable, not just for today, but for the future of this province. Thank you.
Recognize the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. The Ontario NDP has been calling for a public inquiry into Metrolinx and the Eglinton Crosstown LRT since 2022. Wow. After years of Metrolinx delays, blown budgets and secrecy, this government still refuses to call a public inquiry so that we can learn what went wrong before we repeat it on the Lakeshore East Line or anywhere else. People in Oshawa and Durham deserve better GO service and not their own Eglinton Crosstown disaster. Right now, the only people getting a smooth ride are the lawyers, with multi-million-dollar lawsuits piling up, while riders are stuck in traffic and communities are left in limbo. Public money should be going towards building transit and running trains and not paying for Metrolinx's legal defence. So my question is this: will the Premier finally stand with riders instead of Metrolinx insiders and commit to a full public inquiry into Metrolinx's mismanagement?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We've had a record year at Metrolinx. Just in October of this year, over 75 million users were on the GO network between Up Express and our GO Transit services. We've increased services across all of our lines, including the members and Lakeshore East, over 638 trips a week. Just last year, we increased by over 300 trips on a weekly basis across our network, and we marked a historic achievement by ensuring that we have weekend service to the Kitchener GO line all the way to Kitchener, Madam Speaker. We have been making record progress on GO Transit. Since 2022, let's review the NDP record. They've voted against every one of our expansions of GO Transit into areas like Bowmanville and others. They've voted against programs like One Fare that would save the same members that member is talking about $1,600 a year as they transfer onto the TTC or other participating transit networks, Madam Speaker. We're going to continue to invest in public transit despite the opposition of the NDP and Liberals.
Recognize the member for Scarborough Southwest.
Speaker, the minister knows very well that Metrolinx is not accountable. And it isn't just about one project, it's about the overall secrecy and their sheer arrogance across Metrolinx. They ignore and disrespect the public and, frankly, this government. They waste billions of tax dollars on every single project that either collapse or drags on for way too long. They hide major issues, triple the cost, all under this government's watch. A government who not only stays silent, but goes on to shamelessly defend Metrolinx's executives who are making fortunes on the backs of hard-working Ontarians. Speaker, in fact, this morning, when we asked the Government Agencies Committee to call Metrolinx for a hearing, the government members voted our motion down. So I ask again, to the minister and to this government, why won't they call a public hearing or call Metrolinx's public inquiry so people can get the answer they deserve?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Riders are seeing historic expansions and service levels across our entire GO network. If you look at our lines, Madam Speaker, we have increased service every single month, and we've set a record, as I said, in the month of October, with the highest usage of our GO Transit and Up Express in history, Madam Speaker. That's because we've been investing in our transit system. $70 billion over the next 10 years. That's the largest expansion anywhere in North America. The Ontario line, the Scarborough-Sudbury extension, which happens to be in that member's riding, which she has not supported in the House when she's had the chance. Whether it's the inauguration of the Finch West LRT that happened this past week that is going to bring over 220,000 people within a transit line in northwest Toronto, or whether it's our projects that we are launching across the province, whether it be the Hamilton LRT, the Mississauga-Brampton LRT, or Ontario LRT, or projects that are happening in every corner of this province. We're investing in public transit, but we're also making it more accessible, and that's why last week we announced the 2-year extension of the One Fare program.
Question. I recognize the member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Premier. After years of delays and billions of taxpayer dollars spent on the Finch West LRT, we are facing a project that has totally failed to deliver on its promise of rapid transit. Let me say it again, rapid transit. This service is now slower than the buses it was meant to replace. Shame! Rapid transit is supposed to be fast, safe and reliable to encourage ridership. The French West LRT is neither fast nor reliable, and we're still waiting to make sure it meets all safety standards. Madam Speaker, this is equally true for the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, which has become a symbol of inefficiency, incompetence, and a complete failure to taxpayers in Ontario. My question to the Premier, how much longer will Ontarians have to suffer the consequences of your continued failed leadership? Will you take accountability and fix the mess?
Recognize the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. I don't know if I can be as exciting as that, but I'll try. Madam Speaker, since 2002, we inaugurated the first rapid transit line in the history of in Toronto for the first time. Let's look at the record of the previous Liberal government. From 2003 to 2018, not a single transit line was inaugurated in the city of Toronto. But guess what? When we got elected, we made a commitment, we made a promise to get shovels in the ground, to get LRTs built, subways built across the city, and that's exactly what we're doing, Madam Speaker. We're bringing 230,000 people within walking distance of that transit line, and that's what we were so proud to inaugurate.
Back to the member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Madam Speaker, hot off the press are ongoing articles with concerning headlines. I quote, Line 6 is so slow, it's just only faster than people walking. Treat it like the rapid transit it is, and not a sightseeing legacy of a trolley train. Another quote, riders have a right to expect better. If our LRTs move in too slowly, riders will stay in their cars, worsening congestion. This is unacceptable. You know who said that? The chairman for TTC. Madam Speaker, the dysfunctional relationship between Metrolinx, TTC, Toronto, and the Minister for Transportation is evident in their recent meeting. They cannot even decide on an agreement. Shame, shame, shame. So I ask the Premier, can you explain why you continue to fail the people of Ontario? When will you do the right thing and deliver on your promises? Not just to your donors, your friends, and your insiders.
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much. I urge that member to reach out to the chair of the TTC, who she referenced, and ask them to implement the signal priority on the Finch West LRT line, which we are more than happy to work with them to do, Madam Speaker. It should also be noted that it was the TTC that asked for the speed reductions through the 18 intersections to a 25-kilometre limit, Madam Speaker. We'll work with the TTC and do whatever is needed, but that member should also speak to them and encourage them to implement the signal priority, encourage them to modernize and make more efficient the LRVs that are working through that line. Madam Speaker, building transit is something that we take very seriously, and we're going to continue to improve upon every single day. The people of the Northwest Toronto are happy that they have a transit line that is now operational. After years and years and decades of being ignored by the previous Liberal government, who built absolutely nothing for those residents and for the City of Toronto, we're getting shovels in the ground and we're getting transit built.
I recognize the member for York South Weston.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question is for the Honourable and wonderful Minister of Transportation. Speaker, families in my community of York South Weston are feeling the pinch of rising costs. They want to see more common sense solutions that will keep costs down and make their lives easier. Speaker, with many residents in Mount Roddington and across the GTHA relying on public transit to get to work, school, and appointments, it's important that we find ways to make transit more affordable. And thanks to our government's One Fare program, riders have been saving hundreds of dollars every year. By eliminating double fares, our government is ensuring that people are keeping more money in their pockets. Speaker, can the minister explain how our government will continue to make transit more affordable and convenient for communities?
I recognize the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to that member for raising this very important point. Madam Speaker, under the Premier's leadership, our government is delivering on our promise to protect Ontario and the people of this province. By expanding the One Fare program for an additional 2 years, we continue to save transit riders across the province over $1,600 a year and making travel across the GTHA more affordable and more accessible. One Fare allows riders to pay only once when transferring between regional transit organizations, whether it be the TTC, GO Transit, Brampton Transit, Durham Transit, My Way, Peel TransHelp, York Region Transit, and other participating transit agencies. Since its launch, we have executed over 62 million transfers, which has saved over $200 million to transit users across the province. Madam Speaker, this is about putting more money back into the pockets of hardworking Ontarians, ensuring that we have fair, accessible transit services across the province.
Back to the member for York South-Weston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that response. Speaker, residents in my community of York South-Weston are excited about savings One Fare offers. They tell me how this program has reduced their monthly expenses and made travel more convenient. Speaker, the extension of One Fare is a key component of our government's plan to strengthen our regional transit system. It complements the historic investment our government is making in new transit line and GO expansion. Speaker, can the minister share more details on how One Fare and other major transit projects will transform travel across the region and support Ontario's economy?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much to the member again. Our government's vision is clear. We are building a world-class transit system that will transform, integrate transit networks across community, and help reduce congestion and drive economic growth across our province. Expanding One Fare is a key part of that for the next 2 years. It will ensure that riders can travel seamlessly through the GTHA and save $1,600 a year back into their pocket to spend on things that matter. But affordability is just one piece of the plan, Madam Speaker. We are embarking upon the largest transit expansion in North American history. The Ontario Line, the Scarborough Subway Extension, the Yonge North Subway Extension, the Finch West LRT, which we just inaugurated this weekend, the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension, the Hazel McCallion Line, and the Hamilton LRT. These are transformational projects that will transform the way we move around this province, around our cities, and how we integrate and connect everyone across this province into one system.
I recognize the member for London West.
Thank you very much, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Speaker, last week the Auditor General confirmed that 2 million Ontarians do not have access to primary care. This is not only bad for those people, but it's also a problem for municipalities because access to primary care is critical to attract new business, create jobs, and grow the economy. And what we are seeing is more and more municipalities are feeling pressured into using property tax revenues to recruit physicians. They're offering $100,000 signing bonuses and other cash incentives at a cost of $6.3 million per year. My question is, Speaker, why is this Premier downloading healthcare costs, which is a provincial responsibility, onto municipal taxpayers?
Minister of Health.
Thank you. The member opposite raises a very important point, and that is why are we investing in primary care? $2.1 billion. We have seen in 2024 78 new or expanded primary care teams all across Ontario. In 2025, 80 new primary care expansion teams across Ontario. As we expand access for our primary care, and I have to say,
Ontario actually leads Canada in attachments. We are at 90%, but we intend to make sure that every Ontarian who wants to have access to a primary care practitioner has that opportunity. How do we do that? I'll share more in the supplementary, but it obviously includes ensuring expanded medical practices across Ontario.
Back to the member for Windsor, London West.
Speaker, forcing municipalities to enter into bidding wars to recruit new physicians is not strategic and it's not equitable. It creates a Hunger Games, a race to the bottom. It means that access to primary care is determined by how much a municipality is able and willing to pay, not by which municipalities have the greatest need. Speaker, will this government immediately adopt the recommendations of the Auditor General and take responsibility for implementing a coordinated provincial approach to the recruitment and retention of primary care providers?
Minister of Health.
Well, in fact, Speaker, we already do that, of course, with our primary care expansion teams. You know, Practice Ready Ontario is a program that didn't exist 2 years ago, and we now have physicians from other parts of the world who want to come to Canada have the opportunity through Practice Ready Ontario to practice in smaller, often more northern rural communities. And we've seen that in our first tranche, we have actually seen almost 100 new physicians in Ontario practicing and getting to their full licenses sooner. We have seen, through expansion in every single medical school, more seats available, more residency positions available. Of course, I can't not talk about the new medical school in Brampton that has already started and has learners and post-secondary students in those classrooms getting ready to be part of our Ontario workforce.
Recognize the member for Orleans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, last year, a beautiful young girl in Ottawa named Juliette, who has Down syndrome, thrived in French immersion. With proper EA support, she succeeded academically, she earned awards, she showed exactly what true inclusion looks like when children are given the chance to achieve their best. This year, it's completely different. Because of funding shortfalls, her school can only provide 30 minutes of support a day. And without that support, her teacher now gives her coloring pages, not math, so that she has something to do while the other children learn. Her father said it in a way that none of us should forget. She went from thriving to being just a bum in a seat. That's not inclusion, that's not dignity, that's not the education Ontario promises every child. So, Madam Speaker, when will the Premier provide the funding needed to ensure students like Juliette receive real, meaningful support to flourish, not coloring sheets just to keep them busy?
Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Well, I appreciate the question because it's exactly what we've been talking about now for weeks. We want an education system that focuses on students, parents and teachers and provides the necessary resources. That is in part why in his area we fired the school trustees because they were spending too much time fighting each other and not enough time focusing on what's important, student achievement. Now, it doesn't matter, as I've said on numerous occasions, it doesn't matter that we're funding education to the highest level. It doesn't matter that we've hired thousands of teachers and EAs and support. What matters is the results that we're getting out of our education system, and it is exactly why we brought in Bill 33. Unfortunately, an arrogant and out-of-touch Liberal Party voted against that bill. It allows me to step in on behalf of parents, students and teachers to ensure that all kids have access to the highest level of education. It shouldn't matter who you are, what your level is. Everybody deserves the right to have an education system that is focused on them, and for far too long that was not the case in the province of Ontario, and that's why we're going to double down to make sure maximize resources for students and parents and teachers.
Back to the member for Orleans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We need to be honest about the situation in Ottawa because Juliette's parents don't need spin and Juliette won't benefit from the blame game. Two of this government's most senior political operatives, the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Premier and the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Public Business and Service Delivery, both are trustees on the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the school board Juliette attends. If the Premier insists on blaming the board or the minister does, they are in fact blaming their own senior political operatives. Even with that level of political influence on the Ottawa Board, they cannot provide the funding for special education that children like Juliet need and deserve. So, Madam Speaker, how can the Premier or his minister look parents in the eye and pretend that this is acceptable? Will he finally admit that the system is chronically underfunded and it's leaving children with disabilities to effectively be bums in seats instead of students in a classroom?
Minister of Education.
Well, the member should know when I was in his community just last Friday when we announced significant resources for all of the boards there to build on to additional schools and to expand others, that what we are focused on is ensuring that there are maximized resources for classroom education. And at the time, I actually did and have said on a number of occasions that what I want is for parents to hold me accountable, hold the Minister of Education accountable for showing leadership back in the Ministry of Education. Now, if an arrogant, out-of-touch Liberal from Ottawa would stop yakking, as he is right now, he should be embarrassed, right? He should be embarrassed because the leader of the Liberal Party failed students. He made schools unsafe. It was him who took police out of our schools to make them unsafe, right? It was he who closed down 600 schools across the province of Ontario. When healthcare was suffering in Ottawa, what did he do? He closed hospitals, fired nurses, and couldn't get the job done. Arrogant, out of touch, ineffective is the history of the Liberal Party of Ontario. We'll bring it all back. A prosperous, stronger Ontario.
Question. I recognize the member from Markham Thornhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaker, my question is for the Associate Solicitor General for Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Speaker, people are tired of seeing the same pattern repeat itself. Violent offender commit a crime, is released on bail, and then re-offend within hours and within days. The broken bail system is leaving families anxious, communities on edge, and police officers increasingly frustrated. Speaker, Ontarians deserve better. Under the Premier's leadership, our government has been consistent, urging the federal government to strengthen the bail rules and make meaningful improvement to the criminal code. Speaker, can the Associate Solicitor General tell the House what steps he is taking to get real bail reform across the line and make our streets safer?
Response. I recognize the Associate Solicitor General.
Yay. Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the excellent member from Markham Thornhill for the question. To be blunt, people across Ontario are sick and tired of seeing the same repeat offenders get a pass from our justice system. They've had enough, and they want change, and they want it now. Speaker, the federal law needs to meet the standard Canadians expect. That means cracking down on crime and keeping...
I apologize to the Associate Minister. We have 3 minutes and 27 seconds. 3 minutes and 27 seconds before we start throwing people out at the end of the air. I apologize. I will acknowledge the Associate Minister once again. Associate.
Thanks, Speaker. As I was saying, the federal law needs to meet the standard Canadians expect. That means cracking down on crimes and keeping violent repeat offenders where they belong, behind bars. While Bill C-14 is a good first step, we all know a lot more needs to be done. Too many violent repeat offenders continue to walk free, threatening our communities and putting public safety at risk. That cannot continue. Since day one, our government has been pushing for real change that keeps dangerous, violent criminals behind bars and out of our communities. And Speaker, will keep pushing the federal government to do the right thing and enact meaningful bail and sentencing reform. Thank you.
Back to the member from Markham Thornhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Solicitor General, for that wonderful response. While the federal government's new bill, C-14, is a good first step, it just doesn't go far enough, Madam Speaker. Speaker, the Ontario public have been very clear on what they want to see. They want safer communities. They want the real bail reform, and they want the repeat offenders off our street. Our government is speaking up for victims and backing our police so that repeat offenders stay behind bars. Madam Speaker, can the Associate Solicitor General tell the House what additional action our government is taking to protect our communities from violent offenders from our street and community? Thank you.
The Associate Solicitor General.
Thank you, Speaker. I see some frontline officers in the gallery today, and I thank them for their service and everything they do. Speaker, this morning we had the debate on the second reading of Keeping Criminals Behind Bars Act. If passed, this bill will help keep repeat offenders off our street and keep our communities safer. The main changes are requiring full bail cash ordered by the court to be paid up by accused or the surety upon release, granting the province stronger tools to collect unpaid bail money, including taking it directly from the wages or selling their assets and putting lien on the property, creating a provincial database of sureties so courts can keep an eye and check on who's guaranteeing an accused person's release, and building up dedicated provincial teams to prosecute bail violations and improve oversight. Speaker, we will keep working every single day to keep Ontario safe. Thank you.
Recognize the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Between January and October of this year, only 49,600 homes were started. That is barely 33% of this government's own target. That is a massive failure to deliver the housing supply when people desperately need homes. At the same time, they were happy to deliver cuts to tenant protections and eviction safeguards at the very moment people need stability the most. The Federal Housing Advocate has found that eviction-first policies worsen homelessness. Speaker, when experts and people with lived experience say that these policies cause harm, why does this government keep choosing displacement over prevention and eviction over housing stability?
Recognize the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Well, thank you, Speaker, and thank you for the question. What this government is focused on is creating the conditions to build more homes. We are in a generational housing crisis, so we acknowledge it. That's why we brought forth Bill 17 and Bill 60, and we're going to put those good deeds to work. Speaker, that's why we reduced the HST for first-time homebuyers. Speaker, that's why we see rental starts at a record high in this province for 3 years. Speaker, that's why we see 17,000 new rental starts year over year, up 38%. Speaker, we're creating the conditions to get more homes built faster. At the end of the day, I think you'll have to realize that we will protect the dream of home ownership. This government was elected to protect our economy, and we will be relentless in creating those conditions as we build faster, smarter, and without delay.
Pursuant to Standing Order 36A, the member for Orleans has given a notice of dissatisfaction with the answer to the question given by the Minister of Education regarding special education funding. This matter will be debated on Tuesday, February 17, 2026, following private members' public business. I would now